My parents cut me off after I graduated. Then the bank's CEO politely called me ma'am. My name is Clara Benson, and that moment made me realize that independence isn't just about surviving. It's about proving your worth on your own terms. I had always been a good student. Straight A's, debate team captain, community service hours, the works. My parents, Richard and Margaret Benson, had high expectations. They promised me support, a safety net, and guidance. I assumed their love was unconditional. I was wrong. The day after graduation, everything changed. I had just walked across the stage, diploma in hand, smiling at the family who had always been my cheerleaders. But at dinner that night, my parents dropped the bombshell. "Clara," my father said, his voice calm but firm, "you're an adult now. We won't be helping you financially anymore. You're on your own." I blinked. "Wait, what?" "You heard me," my mother added, looking at me like I should have understood. "You have an education. You're capable. Figure it out." That night, I packed the few things I had stored at their house and moved into a tiny apartment with peeling paint and a stubborn kitchen sink that refused to drain properly. The first few weeks were brutal. Every bill was a new challenge. I juggled 2 part-time jobs just to cover rent and groceries. Sleep became a luxury. But I reminded myself constantly, independence was the ultimate test of my abilities. I would not fail. One day, I walked into the city's largest bank for a job interview. I had studied finance in college, and this was the place I had dreamed of working since I was a freshman. The lobby gleamed with marble floors and polished brass accents. I straightened my blazer, smoothed my hair, and walked in with all the confidence I could muster. The interview went well, but what truly made an impression was the CEO, Margaret Callahan. She had a reputation for being demanding and precise, a woman who didn't give compliments lightly. When she shook my hand at the end of the interview, she said, "Thank you, ma'am. I'm looking forward to seeing what you can do." Ma'am. The word resonated in my mind. For the first time in weeks, I felt acknowledged, respected not because of who my parents were, but because of who I had become. Within a month, I received an offer. I started as an entry-level financial analyst, and though the pay wasn't extravagant, it was enough to feel the power of earning my own way. I rented a better apartment, furnished it slowly but with care, and bought myself things I had wanted but never dared to ask for. One afternoon, a client called requesting a complex investment plan. I stayed late, pored over data, created projections, and presented it to my supervisor. She smiled and said, "Clara, you handled that brilliantly." Later, the CEO herself stopped by my desk. "You handled that situation with poise," she said. "Very impressive. I trust you'll continue this level of professionalism." I felt a swell of pride. This was real recognition, earned through my own effort, not inherited from a family name or wealth. Weeks turned into months, and I began saving, investing, and building a life that was completely mine. I had lunch with colleagues who became friends, joined professional networks, and even started mentoring a few interns, paying forward the support I had to fight to find on my own. Meanwhile, my parents occasionally called, asking about rent or bills I had already covered. I would politely answer, never hiding that I had succeeded, never boasting, but letting them know I was thriving. One evening, I went out to dinner to celebrate a promotion. As I stepped into the restaurant, I realized that the woman who greeted me was wearing a name tag that read, Clara Benson, Senior Analyst. I smiled. It wasn't just a title. It was proof that I had built something solid with my own hands. I thought back to the moment my parents cut me off. Painful, humiliating, frightening, yes. But it forced me to grow, to step into my own strength, to learn that independence doesn't come from someone else's generosity. It comes from knowing your worth and working tirelessly to prove it to yourself. And when I remember the CEO politely saying, "Ma'am," I realize it wasn't just a gesture of respect. It was a confirmation that my achievements stood on their own merit, more valuable than any family fortune or parental approval. That moment taught me a lesson I'll carry forever. Being cut off doesn't mean being defeated. Sometimes, it's the first step towards standing taller than you ever imagined.